There comes a moment in every high value woman's life where she realizes she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Not for her silence, not for her glow up, not for the way she suddenly became unavailable. Because true power isn't announced, it's felt. And when you stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you in the first place, that's when you start becoming her. Explaining yourself is for the insecure. The invisible it girl is secure in her evolution. She doesn't shrink herself to seem relatable. She doesn't dilute her standards to make others comfortable. She simply elevates, quietly, consistently, and unapologetically. There's no press release, no social media campaign, no announcement. She just becomes, and they watch. When she started saying no without guilt, she felt free. No, I am not available. No, I won't tolerate this. No, I don't owe you an explanation. Power begins at boundaries. Let them think you're rude. Let them assume you're too much. Let them gossip. Let them watch. Your energy is not open for invitation. It's a velvet rope. When you stop performing, you start becoming. She used to over-explain why she left, why she stayed, why she's suddenly glowing, why she's no longer reacting, why she's quieter now. But now, she lets them sit in silence because real elegance isn't loud. Real mystery doesn't come with footnotes. The moment she stopped narrating her life became art. When you stop explaining your decisions, your peace multiplies and your presence intensifies. You stop trying to be understood. You start becoming impossible to ignore. The invisible it girl doesn't demand the spotlight. She is the spotlight. Without trying, without asking. She simply glows. Let them wonder. She changed. They notice. Not because she told them, but because she stopped needing to. She moved differently, loved herself more, spoke less, glowed more. Let them wonder where you went. Let them wonder who you are with. Let them wonder what you're working on. Because the more they wonder, the more they watch. Every time she wanted to explain, she reminded herself, silence is the answer. Growth doesn't need validation, and elevation doesn't beg for understanding. The women who rise the fastest are the ones who rise in silence. They wanted the old version of her, the accessible one, the one who replied quickly, who explained her mood, who gave chances. But the new her, she doesn't need to be liked. She doesn't need to be understood. She needs to be free. The freedom begins with selective access. They think they're confused? Good. Confusion is power. The invisible it girl doesn't argue. She doesn't prove. She doesn't chase clarity. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, they start reflecting on what they did, and you start attracting everything you deserve. Your silence is your softness and your strength. Soft power isn't passive, it's precise. And a silent woman with standards is louder than anyone explaining every boundary. You don't need to defend your glow up. You don't need to justify your self-worth. You don't need to tell them why you left the party early, why you don't post anymore, or why you never text back. The woman who stopped explaining started attracting, effortlessly, elegantly, exactly. They remember how it felt when you went silent. Soft power whispers. It doesn't scream. Stop explaining, start embodying. Let the mystery be the message. Let the silence be the story. Let the results do all the talking. She didn't cut them off. She just quietly rose above. No goodbye, no explanation, just distance, and devotion to her next level. And that, darling, is how you become unforgettable. She didn't post the gym selfies. She didn't announce the diet. She didn't document the glow up. But suddenly her skin was clear, her waist was snatched, her silence louder than 1,000 captions. She didn't tell the world she was becoming. She just did. Because the woman who truly levels up knows what you build in private becomes sacred. What's sacred doesn't need to be shared. Becoming the woman you said you would be. While they're chasing attention, she was chasing alignment. She was becoming softer in the spirit, but sharper in focus. Waking earlier, eating better, reading more, saying less, stretching longer, and spending smarter. She was building a version of herself no one had access to yet, not even her past self. You want them to notice, but the real flex is when they have to do a double take. The one who vanished at her lowest returned at her best. No comeback captions, no step-by-step explanations, just undeniable evolution. Let them trace your glow back to guesses. You owe them no roadmap. The private glow up is the most powerful. There's power in not posting, power in not performing, and power in not explaining what you're healing. Because when you're really locked in, you forget the audience. You don't need applause, you're too busy applauding yourself. That gym routine, sacred. The new habit, sacred. The emotional boundaries, sacred too. When it's sacred, it's silent. When it's real, you don't need to convince anyone. The invisible it girl doesn't need to post everyone. She collects them in private, like jewelry for her soul. She knows every time she levels up quietly, she doubles the power of her next reveal. Soft obsession with self is a silent luxury. While others were scrolling, she was sculpting, not just her body, her mind, her femininity, and her future. She became so obsessed with her own vision that nothing else mattered. No updates, no noise, just growth. The obsession wasn't loud, it was sacred, it was divine, it was her. Soft power is falling so in love with yourself, you forget to perform for others. You became her, not to be admired, but because you promised yourself you would. That's luxury. That's the invisible it girl energy. Your glow up doesn't need validation. They don't need to see every step. They don't need to understand the plan. They don't even need to believe in it because it's not for them. It's for you, for the girl who once settled, who once explained, who once waited. You are now your own evidence, your own soft power, and it's blooming behind closed doors. Let them ask where you went. Let them wonder why you changed. Let them guess who you became. You stop waiting to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. You became the woman who doesn't need an occasion to celebrate herself. The woman who doesn't wait for love to love her body. The woman who doesn't explain her piece. Quietly became everything you once prayed for, and no one saw it coming. So let the work speak, let the silence echo. By the time they realize you leveled up, you're already on the next level. They don't hear from you often because what you're building requires silence. Your habits, silent. Your new income, silent. Your inner peace, loud, but only to you. Let the softness speak louder than any status. Let the mystery become your magnetism. She no longer updates, she arrives. She no longer explains, she evolves. She no longer asks for space, she creates her own world within it. This is what it means to glow in silence. This is what it means to level up softly. This is what it means to become the woman they'll never forget without ever telling them how. She didn't ghost because she was mad. She didn't fall off because she was lost. She disappeared because she finally found herself, by herself. Strategic silence is not revenge, it's restoration. It's not petty, it's powerful. It's not about getting even, it's about elevating. Because you're not gone, you're just growing. She didn't say goodbye, she just withdrew her energy. From the chaos, from the noise, from the people who only loved access, not essence. Sometimes the most seductive thing you can do is disappear without drama. Not with anger, not with attitude, just absence. Your silence is not a void, it's velvet, soft, luxe, unreadable. You don't need to tell them you're working on yourself. You don't need to post a story that hints at your glow up. You don't need to be seen to be leveling up. Strategic silence means you know you're evolving and that's enough. They'll notice eventually, but then you won't need them to. Leave no breadcrumbs. Let them chase the void. When she stopped leaving digital traces, the energy shifted. No more indirect posts, no more subtle cries for attention, because the real flex is becoming so elusive that they can't even decode you. They wonder if you're mad. They wonder who you're with. They wonder if you still care. That's the art of seduction through silence. Letting them fall in love with the question. She doesn't beg for closure. She doesn't chase explanations. She is the cliffhanger. And the more they obsess over what you're doing, the more power you gain. Remember, emotional detachment is soft control. She used to cry when people left. Now she doesn't flinch when they walk away. Not because she doesn't feel, but because she knows her worth no longer dependent on being chosen. That's the thing about detachment. It's not cold, it's calculated warmth. You still smell, you still care, but you no longer cling. Your energy is now earned privilege, not a default setting. Her silence isn't a punishment, it's preservation. Because in a world addicted to noise, she chose stillness. And in that stillness, she became invincible. Remember, silence is seduction. Disappear with softness. The most unforgettable women never raise their voices. They just lower their presence. You don't leave with noise, you leave with grace. Let them feel the shift. Let them study your silence. Let them wonder what version of you is blooming behind the scene. You don't leave for attention. You leave for alignment. And nothing hunts the ego like a woman who went silent and started shining. She replaced conversations with confirmations. She replaced scrolling with scripting. She replaced waiting with working. This is what strategic silence looked like. Muted notifications, early nights, midday facials, late night planning, no witnesses, just results. Remember, when you reappear, they won't be able to catch up. When she returns, they won't even recognize her. Not because she changed for them, but because she stopped trying to be understandable. She stopped living out loud for people who only watched in silence. She became a different woman, privately, quietly, and deeply. That's the psychology of going ghost. You vanish, you transform, and you reappear unreachable. Let them wonder why you stopped talking. Let them guess what you're doing now. Let them miss you without knowing what they did wrong. That's the soft power. That's the strategic silence. And that is the signature move of an invisible it girl. She didn't ghost, she involved. And that, darling, is louder than any goodbye. She didn't come back with a bang. She came back with a glow. A glow so soft it made noise. A presence so still it shook the room. She didn't post her wins, she wore them. She didn't scream her new standards, she became it. Remember, your aura walks in first. Now she walks into rooms with nothing to prove. No one knows what she's been through. They just feel it. The calm, the confidence, that glow that says, I've been elsewhere and I liked it better there. Because her aura, it got stronger in silence. It matured in the dark. The invisible it girl became the woman who no longer looks for an audience. She is her own witness now. Her softness is no longer mistaken for weakness. Her silence, not shyness, but strategy. And that mystery, it's her protection, her currency, her signature. Remember, elegance is now your weapon. She doesn't argue, she ascends. She doesn't respond, she removes herself. She doesn't prove herself, she embodies the proof. Now when people cross her, they don't get noise anymore. They get nothing. Because soft power doesn't react, it refines. Her elegance became addictive. Her absence became expensive. Her energy, exclusive. And the very people who once underestimated her, now they can't look away. Let them watch. Let them replay. Let them study a version of you they'll never get access to again. Remember, rebrand is spiritual. The level up, untraceable. They think it was a gym. They think it was a man. They think it was a vacation. But no, it was a decision. A decision to no longer explain, to no longer prove, to no longer seek outside approval. She became the woman who turned her pain into polish, her silence into seduction, her past into a passport to her next level. She no longer seeks to be understood. She seeks to be remembered, not for her story, but for her stillness, her restraint, her refusal to rush. She is unforgettable because she made herself unavailable. Remember, let them witness your absence. Let them chase a ghost. You were too present for too long, too accessible, too understandable, but now you're the mystery that lingers, the lesson they can't rewrite, the vibe they can't duplicate, and they'll never say it out loud. But they feel your absence more than they ever value your presence. That is soft power. That is seduction without a single word. This is how the invisible it girl wins. She rides slowly, she moves mysteriously, she disappears purposely, and when she reappears, she's unrecognizable. They don't get closure, they get curiosity. They don't get access, they get echoes. Remember, your final soft power moves is you let them watch. You want to level up? Stop chasing applause. Stop oversharing updates. Stop fighting to be seen. Let them wonder. Let them replay. Let them feel the weight of your silence. You are not missing. You're not lost. You are simply no longer available at the level they left you on. Smile, because the softest power is this. You didn't need to say a word, and yet the world couldn't stop watching. She didn't beg, she became. She didn't chase, she curated. She didn't force her way into the spotlight. She let her silence become the light. And now it is art. It is energy. It is evidence. Let them wonder. Let them watch. Because the invisible it girl doesn't just return. She arrives, unreachable, unbothered, and unforgettable. Remember, darlings, in order to live a high-quality lifestyle, you have to embody high-quality essence. Smooches!